This is Ruth Ann. Today I'm going to be filming a video on my first autumn perfume lineup. So this is not a comprehensive review of all of my fall perfumes. That video would be way too long. But this is the first ones that I'm pulling out now that we're turning to fall. I live in the Midwest. It's still fairly warm, but now in the evenings we're getting down into the lower 70s, upper 60s, and the trees are starting to turn. So typically, like last fall, I was really into green fragrances. This fall, I'm really more into ambers and sweet perfumes. I find those to be much more comforting, cozy, and homey. So that's what I'm going to be covering in large part. This video is really going to be amber, sweet, and comfort. Those are my three main themes. So I'm going to start with, this is Guerlain Samsara. So this is an EDP. This was a Christmas gift from my husband. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. This is kind of what you would consider a flagship sandalwood fragrance. For me, this is really about sandalwood. It's very powdery. It's very woody. This was released, excuse me, in 1989, and it's considered an amber woody fragrance. This is a really good, solid, all-around, classy, expensive smelling fragrance. You can wear this for every day. This can be special occasions, date night. It's just gorgeous if you like sandalwood. For me, this is just a very grounded fragrance. It really helps me to feel confident when I wear it. It's very sophisticated, sensual, just an excellent all-around fragrance. If you like sandalwood, you need to experience this. It's probably best if you get one in this more, it's not really vintage, but this is more the classic bottle. In the new B bottles, I understand the formulation is quite changed. So highly recommend this. Lasts for many hours. Sandalwood fragrances do tend to perform very well. Maybe not quite as well as patchouli fragrances, but they do last well. This is a good 6 to 7 hours before it becomes a skin scent. And I'm looking forward to diving into this as soon as the weather gets a lot cooler. Next up, I have another sandalwood fragrance. This is Adam Levine for Woman. This is an amber floral fragrance that came out in the early 2000s, or 2010s, I think, something like that. This is, for me, a very warm, spicy, woody sandalwood experience. The spices in here are very mild. This is a very unique fragrance in that it has sandalwood as a base, but it's also got this kind of sexy, gently spicy vanilla benzoin base that I really, really like. The great thing about this is it is a excellent value. For a full 100 ml bottle, you can get it easily for under $15. And the sandalwood in here is very creamy. Where in Samsara, it's a little more sharp and woody. This is more creamy and sensual, warm and comforting. Very, very beautiful fragrance. And next, I'm going to cover... Okay, so this one is by Hermes. This is L'Arbre de Merveilles. Sorry, my French is not the greatest. This is an amber vanilla fragrance that really features, oh, it's slipping my mind. What is that salty note? Anyway, it's the one that they get from off the beach. Can't remember what it is. But anyway, this Eau de Merveilles line that Hermes has a full line of, this is the amber version of it. And this is probably, of all of this line, the most common, at least the most commonly reviewed fragrance that I've seen on YouTube. And it's absolutely gorgeous. This one is a bit more expensive. I think this was about $130. But I think it's come down a bit now. If you look on eBay, that note that I can't remember the name of gives it a slightly salty, very unique quality to it, but it's not beachy. And it's difficult to describe. This is something that is more akin to a molecule fragrance, but it's not a molecule fragrance. It's a real fragrance with real notes. It's very warm, very comforting. This is also very transparent, ethereal. It's also very classy and very expensive smelling. This I've worn for special occasions. I've worn this for every day. I have a backup bottle because I absolutely love it and I don't ever want to be without it. It also performs like a beast, a good 12 plus hours. Absolutely beautiful, classy bottle, worth every penny. If you like amber, this is something I really recommend you get your nose on. All right, and I'm really looking forward to wearing that this fall. Next, this is a tester bottle, a Lacoste fragrance that's called Eau de Lacoste Sensuelle. This was released in 2013. I've owned it about a year. I have not worn it enough, and so I pulled it out and I decided this fall and winter I'm going to use it up. This opens with a beautiful, sharp, almost tart black currant with pink pepper. In the mid, there's sweet pea and rose, which you really don't pick up at all. The base is nougat. Isn't that interesting? Nougat and amber. So nougat is really just a form of confectionery sugar that's been caramelized, which is very sweet. So again, this is a real sweet amber fragrance with a bit of an opening of that tart black currant. Lasts a good 4 to 6 hours. The amber in this is a little milky, and it's sweet without being sickly sweet. It's very well balanced, very cozy and warm, very inexpensive. I think I got this full bottle for under $20 or just under $20. So this is a real budget-friendly fragrance that I plan to use up. But again, another sweet, warm amber. Next, I have, the old classic, pink sugar. All right, so this is not an amber fragrance, but it is a sweet fragrance. And for me, I pull this out when I need a mood boost. I'm going through some stuff here with my husband's illness, and we're coming up on some hard things. His treatment regimen is changing, so life could be getting more difficult. Anyway, I wear these super sweet fragrances sometimes when I need a pick-me-up, because it's hard to feel sorry for yourself. It's hard to feel as much stress and sadness when you are wearing something like this. So pink sugar, to me, when I was a teenager, I worked at the state fair, and I worked at a food booth in the state fair. And when we went down to the Midway, there were all kinds of these cotton candy stands, and this brings me right back to those cotton candy stands. If you've been at one, there's kind of this burnt sugar cotton candy smell that this replicates beautifully. It also is well known for its licorice note. I don't really pick that up on here very much. It's more of a burnt sugar, caramelized sugar kind of experience for me. It's slightly spicy. That's probably from the licorice and the pepper, but it's gorgeous. Lasts 6+ hours. This is just an easy, inexpensive, throw it in your purse, spray it on when you need a mood pick-me-up, and I plan to wear this a lot. This I've had for 3 years. I've gone through half the bottle. I have several flankers to this, but this is still my favorite of all the line. And ladies, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you like sweet fragrances, wear this. There's nothing overly juvenile about it. This is good for all ages, trust me. Next up, I have, let's see if I can find it here. All right. Now, this we're moving away from sweet. This is Ciara by Revlon. This came out in 1973. This is an amber floral fragrance. So this is not sweet. This is more of a balsamic incense, heavy, spicy. This is a very saturated, heavy fragrance. Now this, the reason I picked this one out and why it's so comforting is because this was my signature scent. It was one of them, actually, when I was in high school. Now this is the 100% version. It's also sold in an 80. And I have not worn Ciara since I started college, right? So I started college in 1987, and I had not worn this since high school. And I really kind of had put it behind me, and then I picked up this bottle this last year. And I want to tell you, I spent less on this bottle this year than I had spent on my last bottle back in high school in the 80s, because this was more expensive back then. It wasn't expensive, but it's more expensive than it is now, which I think is really interesting. Anyway, even though this is the 100% strength, it's definitely not as strong as it used to be. This is a really good, everyday, cool weather, spicy amber scent. And because it is so inexpensive, I really recommend it. Like I said, it's not as strong as it used to be. It used to be a big bomb. I would spray it on the inside of my coat and it would smell for weeks. And I mean that, weeks. Back in the Midwest winters when I was growing up. This really will last a good 6 to 8 hours now. It's still strong. It's not going to fill the room though, but you have to like spicy. Amber balsamic spicy. On a budget, if that's your thing, you got to give this a try. All right, next up, this is another, like I said, I'm going for comfort this fall, right? This is another high school 1980s signature scent for me. This is Gloria Vanderbilt. This is just the Gloria Vanderbilt signature scent, the OG. This came out in the 80s. This is a kind of a spicy, slightly spicy pineapple fragrance. So in the top, this has got a kind of a fruity floral thing going on, but it's not sweet. And then it's got this beautiful ambery, fruity dry down. This is really a vanilla, like a classic vanilla fragrance with a fruity opening. Slightly spicy, but this is definitely not what I would call a spicy fragrance. It's really more of a warm pineapple peachy vanilla. Really, really beautiful. Performs well. This still smells like it did in the 80s. Takes me right back to some of my high school jobs that I wore this every day. And I'm going to wear this a lot this fall. Next up, another comforting high school 80s fragrance. This is Exclamation. This is by Cody. This has a peach note. It's slightly, it's got a real ambery benzoin base, and then it's got spices in the mid. So peach spicy with a warm, ambery, musky base. This is very inexpensive. I mean, look at the tacky bottle. Still the same tacky bottle from the 80s. This is a lot of what my high school hallways smelled like. And again, like I said, I'm really going for the comfort this fall. This is beautiful. And if you like amber, slightly spicy, this is nothing like the spice of Ciara. It's much more subdued, much classier. This actually smells very, very pleasant. And highly recommend this. You can pick these up for just a few bucks, and they last a good 6 hours. So if you like spicy ambers, give that one a try. Next up, I have, this is one that I covered in my last video. This is a thrift store find by Rosha. This is a French house, and this perfume is called Tocade. This is just a really classy, beautiful amber. There's really not a lot of spices going on in here. I found that it really comes on like a bit of a red floral bouquet, but what it's all about is this classy, expensive smelling amber base with some vanilla blended in. But it's primarily amber. There's likely some sandalwood based in this as well. I haven't really looked up. I'm not giving you a really extensive list of notes here. I'm giving you my impressions of having worn these and what they smell like, and just sharing with you because it's fun what I'm wearing this fall. So amber, comfort, beautiful, classy, expensive smelling, even though you can have this easily on a budget. All right, next up is another House of Rochas classic. This is Madame Roshad. This has been around since the 1950s, I believe. This is more of a classic, you know, this is something that my grandmother, maybe even my great-grandmother would have worn. But it's, so if you're going to talk about what smells dated, this probably does. However, what does that really mean anymore? Because how many women that were in their 20s, in the 50s, are still alive to talk about these fragrances? But they're still being worn and still enjoyed. And I'm really enjoying discovering some of these classics. My mother never wore this kind of fragrance. Like I said, this is the more of the era of my grandmother rather than my mother. And my mother's in her 80s. So that's what I'm talking about, is this really goes back a while. This is a vanilla amber with a lot of floral bouquet mixed in. Again, a real classy. There's a bit of a greenness going on in this as well. And this is a monster for lasting a good 6 to 8 hours. But it's subtle. So you spray this, it doesn't fill the room. And it sits a little closer to the skin once it settles down after about an hour. There's nothing funky or animalic going on in this, and it's just a real classy, good daily wear scent with some amber and vanilla. All right, next, this is going to be my third in the row from the house of Rosha. This is called Femme de Roshad. This is a powerhouse classic. This is animalic, like a I don't even know how to describe it. This has got a funky musk. So if you're really adventurous and you like yourself a good animalic funk of a musk, this is something worth trying. And you really get that even on the opening of Femme. But in the dry down, that funkiness, harsh animalic note dies down, and you're left with this warm, beautiful skin scent of a ambery vanilla musk. And I'm a musk lover. This one is a bit of a challenge for me to wear, to be honest, but I do enjoy it. So I'm going to challenge myself to wear this fall. And again, if you like an animalic, it's a bit like a classy ambery vanilla meets a leather jacket, and you're wearing bright red lipstick and red fingernail polish. That's what Femme Roshad is to me. So anyway, if you like a challenge, these bottles can be picked up for a really good bargain, and they last really, really well. Next up, this is a new fragrance for me that I picked up this spring. This is a Raghba Wood Intense EDP. This smells, this is slightly sweet. It's kind of like a toasted marshmallow dripping in caramel, and you're at a bonfire. So that is what is comforting about this fragrance, is that it's sweet. It's got that gourmand touch to it, but it also smells like a wood-burning fire. And that, I think, for almost everyone alive is a very comforting combination, especially that burning wood. And then you're sitting down eating a caramel-drenched, what are those things called with the graham crackers and the, I can't really think today. Oh, a s'more. A s'more. This is like eating a caramel-drenched s'more at a wood campfire, singing campfire songs with your best friends. So I'm really, and it lasts like crazy. This is a good 24 hours plus. This is one of the longest lasting fragrances I have ever met. So really recommend, not super expensive. I maybe spent $40. This is probably one of the more, no, actually I've gone over some expensive fragrances today. So we really range from $20, under 20, to this is probably more in the $40, $50 range. All right, and then I have one more. This one is probably the biggest departure from all the group. This is Musk by Molinard. This is a French perfume. This is a comforting scent because it smells like, back in the late 70s, early 80s, my sisters and I burned a lot of cherry cone incense in our bedroom. And even though this is called musk, to me this smells like that cherry incense that we burned in the late 70s and 80s. If you were around back then, you probably know that smell. I've also heard that it smells a lot like a head shop. I've only been in a head shop maybe a couple times, and that was probably back in the 80s. And I agree, because they were probably burning those cherry cone incenses back then. So that's what this smells like. It lasts, it's very strong. This one projects. This is a room filler. It only takes a couple of sprays, and it lasts all day, and even more on clothing. I can pick this up on my clothes the next day. Really, really nostalgic, really comforting scent that lasts. And this can be gotten easily for under $30 on eBay. So this is my lineup. I hope you enjoyed it. And if I have any updates on my next lineup of fall fragrances, because I will probably tire of these after a month or so, I will film that later. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.